more than a plastic bag. Let me start off by saying that I am a 19-year-old male currently living in Georgia in the United States. The story takes place when I lived in Tennessee during my second year of elementary school, so somewhere around the fall of 2004 or 2005, me being 7 or 8 at the time. I lived in Tennessee for most of my elementary and middle school years until I moved to Georgia in 2011. Anyways, to the story. This story takes place during the fall, but during the period of fall where the cool air has yet to take on the bone-chilling cold of winter. The leaves during this time had already been well on their way to falling off of the trees and had laid a dense sheet upon the ground. The vibrant oranges, reds, and yellows had turned to crispy brown in their decay. This background is important for later events in the story. At my school, every Tuesday was a library day so the children could go in and check out books for the week until the next library day rolled around. Of the books that could be checked out included books like those I Spy books, and even a gaming magazine that I cannot recall the name of. You could check out multiple books, and on this day I got myself an I Spy book and a gaming magazine. These seemingly irrelevant facts, too, are important for later events in the story. Anyways, the school day was mostly uneventful except for the brisk fall air that accompanied that day. Days like that, where the clouds in their constant motion continually block and unblock the sun's warm rays. I wouldn't say that it was a dreary day, just not sunny and bright like previous ones that year. The day itself ended like most school days. I came home along with my brother and mother, and we started to unwind after a long day of school and the like. At this time, my father was at work and would not return home until later that evening, so we would be home alone for a few hours. Since it was not freezing outside, my mom granted me permission to go outside and play on my swing set, so long as I put on a jacket. I took my gaming magazine from the library and a snack, and went outside to my swing set in bliss. I sat on a swing and used it like a seat, swinging in the wind as I read. I sat there reading and eating until my heart skipped a beat. I heard a noise coming from the highest point of the hill my house was situated on. My house, along with most houses in my neighborhood, were situated on a multitude of branches of roads that all connected to a main road that ran throughout. My road gradually increased in incline, and the road ended with a dead end that was like a wood line, decently dense forests lying beyond the line. The woods were the kind that had trees bowing in, thus blocking out visible light the deeper you entered. Creepy as hell, I know. Staring into the forest, I always felt like someone or something was watching me. This is the same way I felt on that day. I looked up, nervously, and looked around with darting glances, trying to find the source of the noise. Only the sounds of birds chirping met my ears. But I did hear something. Leaves crunching, like something heavy was walking upon them. But I did not hear it again. I, in my ignorance, put down my snack. Tragic, I know. As well as my book. I laid them down on the slide that was next to the swing and walked up the hill. Slowly and steadily, and my footsteps were loud as well. The leaves provided a cover on the ground that would give away any creature's position. I reached the top of the hill and stepped onto the asphalt. Slowly, I approached the wood line where the asphalt ended and harshly transitioned to dirt and grass, among other foliage. I looked up at a netless, rusty basketball goal that had long become part of the tree it was wrapped around. Coupled with the crumbling asphalt and forest, creepy was an understatement. Then, out of nowhere, the crunching leaves again began to sound. Eerily, the sounds of that fall day shattered. All other sounds ceased, even the birds. It was distant, but it slowly increased in volume, coming closer and closer. Whatever it was heavy, as the sound was as loud as I had ever heard it. It came closer and closer, closer, and even closer. It was right on top of me, right in front of me. Then it stopped. The sound just stopped. I wish the story ended there, but the most terrifying moment of my life was yet to come. As I was about to turn around and head back down the hill, I saw a streak of white. The whitest shade of white I've ever seen. So white it was blinding. I looked good at the streak, and to my shock, no, my horror, it was not a streak. It was a mass in human shape that was crunching the leaves as it walked. It, or he, was dressed completely in white. I could distinguish a hat and a t-shirt, as well as pants and boots, all white. It all seemed to blend together. He had no distinguishable facial features, but he seemed to look right at me. It took my 8-year-old brain a moment or two to register what had happened. Once I had, though, all hell broke loose. I screamed an ear-piercing and shrill scream and ran like a track star to my front door and flew inside, slamming the door behind me. Once I was inside, the man had already walked the wood line and disappeared behind our shed. It's like he had vanished behind there. That much I saw before losing my mind to fear. But this was impossible. You absolutely could not walk behind that shed. The erosion behind there prevented that, as it was far too steep, like a 90-degree angle or pretty much a straight drop. He couldn't have walked back there. I frantically told my mother what had happened. She calmed me down and told me to explain it. As I told her, she looked at me with disbelief. I will never forget her words. It was just a plastic bag. That has been etched into my memory. She thought I saw a bag blowing in the wind, animated by the breeze blowing. Now, and then, I knew it was more than a plastic bag. To humor my fear, my mother locked our door and placed the deadbolt on as to satisfy my frantic nature. She and I were peering out of our blinds trying to find this man. When we all gave up, the most terrifying moment occurred. We were all sitting in the living room watching television. The glow of the TV was much more powerful than the dull light coming in from the cracks of the blinds. As we sat, we started hearing little taps on the door, the windows, the walls of the house, even the damned roof. The taps progressively got louder and louder until they were loud and vicious knocks. It was a symphony of knocking all over the house, unlike anything any of us had ever heard. We were all freaking out, consumed by fear. The knocks grew to such a magnitude that it felt like the house itself was shaking. Utter terror was our emotional state. We did not know what to do. Just as the knocking was about to drive us insane, it stopped. Suddenly, and without warning, it just stopped. And we were left in the silence once more. The television had been muted by my mother during the knocking episode, and the familiar ringing in my ears that comes with silence was welcomed. We all sat staring at one another in shock. Following this, we did not tell my father. What was the point? It's not like he would believe us, not being a believer in such things. But I know that I'm a believer. I saw something that day. Something more than just a plastic bag.